Greetings once again. This is Dr. Bill Bailey, and this is the VirtZine Netcast. We are the online magazine of virtualization and cloud computing, and we want to keep you up to date with not only the technology of virtualization and cloud computing, but the societal changes that maybe that will bring about. And I think we're going to be getting into that a little bit today, and I think you'll see what I'm talking about when we get there. Let's look at our first item, though, on the VirtZine blog, which, by the way, you can get at VirtZine.com, as it says right there on the screen. Go check that out and bookmark that in your browser and come by and visit us as often as you can. Also, I'd encourage you to click on over on the right-hand column of the blog there where it has a newsletter, subscribe here field. Go ahead and enter your email there and click subscribe and join our newsletter, because we'll be sending out that newsletter roughly every week with articles and information concerning VirtZine and concerning the Netcast. I think it'll be really useful for you to sign up for that. But let's look at some of the news items. We don't have very many this week, but I want to get into a discussion that I think will be really interesting for you. First of all, GigaOm reports that Microsoft is going to invest $8.6 billion in the cloud. $8.6 billion. Now that works out to 90% of their R&D budget. Now, for one thing, that's a lot of money no matter how you look at it. Now, we're not talking 8.6 million, $8.6 billion of their R&D budget is going to go into cloud computing. Now, as I say in the post here, I think that's more than just a commitment to cloud computing. It's practically betting the farm on cloud computing. They are looking for that to be their strategic direction. I think that they're seeing that cloud computing and virtualization technologies is the wave of the future, and that is the direction they want their business to go in. Now, that led me to think about something here that I want to share with you. This is an article that I wrote as an opinion piece, and I want you to think about it with me. The question I ask is, will the cloud client revolutionize our workflow? Now, when I talk about a cloud client, I'm talking about the direction that Google is going in with their Chrome operating system, their Chrome client, meaning the notebook that they've designed that will run their Chrome operating system. And Chrome is basically going to be a stripped down version of Linux that will boot basically into their Chrome browser. Now you might say, well, what good is that? If all you had as your computing platform was a Chrome browser, then what can you accomplish? Well, that's the point of what I'm talking about here with this cloud client concept. And that is that all of your data will be in the cloud. Let's just think about this scenario. All your data is in the cloud. All your applications come from the cloud, and you are using, in essence, a very, very thin client, like a web browser, to do all your connection to that data and to those programs. Now, let me just read this article. It's a very short little article to you, and I want us to think about what it's talking about. The question is, will the cloud client revolutionize our workflow? Or perhaps the better question is, will it change our very lifestyle? What if you could work anytime, anywhere, and always have all your data and the programs to manipulate that data at your fingertips? What if you weren't tied to your PC at all? In fact, what if you could work from any computer that simply had a network connection securely and not be bound in any way to a single device? Would that affect your work habits? Would you be more efficient and productive? Think about that. Anywhere you are, if you could get to some connected device, or perhaps the device was so small and so thin you could just take it with you and you had ubiquitous Wi-Fi where you had a connection at all times. How would that affect your workflow? Would you be more efficient? Well, let's keep reading in the article here. Well, we're very close to that reality. Any of a number of cloud-based platforms could allow us to live out that scenario. And once we're living in that reality, we will never want to go back to bound computing. Now, I'm using that term bound computing to say you are bound to a device. You're bound to a local network. In other words, you've got to go to work because that's where your device is, that's where your data is on your local area network. So you're bound to that. Now, restricted to only one or two systems that contain our data. That's when you're bound. You're restricted to those systems. Subject to lose it all if the system is compromised, stolen, or simply crashes. And why should we be bound to those restricted systems? This is the question. This is the promise of true cloud computing. But with it will come certain other realities as well. This is where we get into the social aspect of it. Imagine always being able to work. Does that mean your employer will expect you to always be available to do just that? How will we adapt to such a possibility? It will require a rethinking of priorities and lifestyle choices. Are you ready for that future? It's almost upon us. Now, see, this is what I want us to think about. If you could, and it's already happening to a lot of people, when they go on vacation, they're linked back to work with their cell phone. They're linked back to work with Wi-Fi or maybe some device like a tablet. And they just have to pull themselves away from those devices to actually have a vacation. In other words, to clear their mind, to get themselves disassociated from all their responsibilities at work. It's harder and harder to do that. And it will become even harder to do that when this kind of ubiquitous connection, cloud computing client is available. So we're going to have to rethink some of those kinds of priorities and some of those kinds of issues in order to really get good rest mentally, physically. We're going to have to adapt to this highly available work environment. And work is relative. Whether you're talking about work at where you work or whether you're talking about hobbies and interests and ideas and things that you have concerning your own computer life. You know, as a geek, I'm constantly surrounding myself with projects and technologies that don't directly have to do with work, but have to do with my interests. And I have to pull myself away from that in order to have some downtime. You're in danger of never having downtime. And that's the social aspect of virtualization and cloud computing I think we're going to have to factor in. We're going to have to realize that because we are capable of constantly being connected to the net, doesn't mean we need to be. Doesn't mean we have to be. We need to think about these things. And that's one reason I wanted to bring it up and discuss it briefly with you here on the VirtZine Netcast. It's the kind of thing I want us to get into and pursue as we go forward with this grand experiment of VirtZine, the online magazine of virtualization and cloud computing. All right? So think about these things, and remember, until next time, keep your head in the cloud.